Good evening, everybody. Here in Western countries, it's 9:20 p.m. In the night, but in Bangkok, Thailand, it's 9:20 a.m. in the morning. We are together today with Jason Canigan from the Closing Engine and the Pat Foundation CEO and founder, Andy Steele. And we are going to here to talk about the Conservation Community Project, its updates, and what is that all about, and is a first project about to be launched. Am I correct, Andy?
Definitely, quite a lot of projects that we need to launch, but I think we need to focus on one and put that in front and center and raise money for people in that region so we can actually show some credibility with the conservation community.
Right. So
Nice.
Jason, so thank you for jumping in.
Sure. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So, Andy, let's pretend that I don't know anything about Conservation Community Project. What do people need to know? What is the first thing you'd like them to know about the project?
Well, ultimately, we've been running as an organization, as a Pat Foundation, a UK charity and a Thai foundation for over 10 years now. And whilst we've been working on the ground, significantly planting trees and working in environmental education with children, I saw a need to really support a lot of the other projects that are out there. There are more projects than we can handle. And I could see with the connections we've got across the globe that creating a platform, a fundraising platform, will allow us to bring the much needed revenue into these projects. And that the problem we've got is if I'm out in the forest or working with a school on replanting a particular area, then I'm not able to sit at a computer to do the fundraising. And unfortunately, that's the actual key component. So partnering up with the likes of Stefan Matral and Nathaniel Schooler to help us with the account-based marketing solutions takes the onus away from me on the fundraising. So the platform has been designed and will be launched soon to actually put the projects out there and allow people to support any type of campaign that they wish. Some people love orangutans, or some people are into marine conservation. So that's the thinking behind it. Now we've got to start to get into action.
Okay. And part of what you're doing is about like Wednesday nights, you want to have a rendezvous, right? Of Eastern and Western conservationists.
That's right. What we're trying to do here is use social media. It's a very, as you know, a very prominent tool that raises awareness about the different campaigns. So we want to lock down one day a week where we come together and we can talk about the conservation issues and also the projects that we're supporting. So we'll feature projects and we'll get the different project managers and project developers on a call from time to time to give us updates and live feeds from their locations. And when any member of our team visits, we'll also be showing live feeds so the people who are involved in conservation community can actually see on the ground what's happening. So in the next few weeks, I'll be visiting Medan to visit Dr. Ian Singleton at the Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Project. That's great, and I'm fortunate enough that he's only a couple of hours away from me, that I can go and see firsthand the great work that they're doing, but also share that information with everybody else so they can see everything that's going on from a live perspective as well.
Okay. So Conservation Community Project is going to be an online platform that's going to help fund projects in a central way.
That's the concept, yes.
That's the concept. Okay. And it's so that primarily folks like you don't have to be there 24/7 driving away at, hey, we've got to fund these things. And you can be out in the field making a difference, right? I mean, how many trees have you planted as the CEO of Pat?
Well, personally, I haven't planted all of these trees, but we're close to 1 million trees now with Pat Foundation. That was something as a sideline project that has taken obviously a lot of my time. But we've worked with numerous corporations and schools and planted those trees throughout Asia in a number of different countries. And we had a nursery in Khao Yai National Park, and I think over the tenure of that nursery, about 10 years, we've had around 10,000 children pass through and learn about the environment, but more so get hands-on in planting trees, and they, people remember it, and they come back. So I haven't planted all of those trees. There's been quite a lot of other people who helped me along with it, because 1 million trees is quite a lot.
A lot, right? It's like, boy, are my arms tired. Okay, so how are projects going to be selected, do you think? What's the plan?
Initially, the main element from our side is to work with people we know, that we know and trust, and that are large enough organizations that need support for new projects. Once we roll a few of those projects out, then we'll start to look at how to expand the platform to incorporate other little areas. But the key element from our side is we can't raise money and just to give it to everybody. That's not the essential element here. We've got to make sure, a bit like in finance with know your clients, we will need to know who the people are that we're working with before we agree to put their projects on the platform and push campaigns for them to raise money for that particular project.
Okay, so you're going to be connecting up folks who want to fund great conservation projects with doers, people who have established track records, and that are going to use these resources wisely. Okay. Is there going to be any sort of overall perspective on like a vision, let's say, about how the funds are used?
I think we've got to take each project on its merit, and literally what we have here is a multitude of projects. There's more projects coming across my table than I can handle. So the reality is that the focus has got to be global. Initially, we'll focus on projects that we have in hand and that are needy, but the focus has got to be any element of conservation, from marine conservation to wetlands conservation, as well as habitat conservation. Then look at wildlife management, and also something that's prominent that I was discussing with Stefan recently is the protection of people in this area that are protecting the wildlife and the forest. There's been quite a lot of issues recently across the globe in Africa and Asia. So prominent projects, interesting topics, and I think once we get running, we'll get to our full steam, then we'll be able to incorporate a lot more areas. And I think we're in the incubation stage, so we don't want to take on too many projects and then not get them funded. So we'll start with a number of different projects. I can see a comment from Sandra there. Will donors see the projects they're funding? Most certainly. The idea here is that we will have live links to each of those project managers, and they can show us with updates on the platform what's going on and how their money is being utilized. So people can interact and see on a regular basis exactly what is going on with constant updates from those projects. I think Stefan's was looking to show us the area where we were hoping to release hornbills back into northern Chiang Mai. And that's the project that we're focusing on at the start, and we're aiming to launch the fundraising campaign this week. Okay.
For the rendezvous idea, is there a set time for that? That'll be on social media, I guess on Facebook?
Yes, that's right. I'm just getting the time zones right. It's 9:30 a.m. in Bangkok, which is 9:30 p.m. Sorry, that's 9:30 p.m. for you guys in the Western world, in America and Canada. So that would be Tuesday evening for you at 9:30, and Wednesday morning in Asia.
So right now. Okay, that makes sense. That probably explains why I'm here. All right. Well, great. Sandra's got another question there. Does this type of funding structure help reduce the carbon footprint of your operations? Interesting.
There's a few different angles there. Obviously, electricity is required to use an online platform, but I think that what we've got to do really is say, yes, our intention is to reduce our carbon footprint wherever possible. We don't need to fly around the world when we've got technology and volunteers that can visit the projects and actually stream live. Otherwise, it'd be great if I was flying around the world to all these projects, but we've got to understand the environmental issue around this. So the reality is also, well, we're still focusing on reforestation. I'm talking to a project in Costa Rica that is looking to plant a significant number of trees. So I'm pretty sure that with the work that we accomplish, we'll more than offset our carbon footprint from the platform by the tree planting that we support through this project campaign.
Good. Well, Sandra will be happy. So what about different kinds of categories, different types of projects? Could you share with us what's being envisioned?
Yes, there's a lot of different options. I mean, we go from protecting the forest and then reforestation, which is where we've been working quite prominently in the last decade, to then environmental education, educating children about the benefits of the environment, etc. But we want to broaden that scope now and start to look at wildlife conservation, wildlife management, and more so protection of wildlife. So contexts that I've been working with prominent individuals in this sector that I've worked with over the last decade are always struggling to raise funds for their projects. The guys at Wildlife One, that's Adam Oswell and Dennis Galley, they've been looking to raise money for the Hornbill project for some time now. They've got everything in place, but now they are conservationists and they struggle with raising the funds, which is where I hope to assist them. Hornbills is one option. We're also talking to, as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Ian Singleton to support the Sumatran orangutan conservation project. Dr. Ian Redmond is working with gorillas and elephants in Africa. And there's other projects that keep coming along, always new areas, planting mangroves, looking at the wetlands areas and conservation in wetlands areas. More recently, the UK announced that it would plant trees. I think the intention is to plant something like 50 million trees across a corridor from the east to west, from Liverpool to Hull, which is my hometown.
Yeah.
So interested to follow what the Woodland Trust is doing in that area, and I know they're trying to raise £7 million to kick that project off. So as you can see, we can encompass a lot of different options, even going as far as New Zealand and supporting the conservation of the kakapo. There's only 30 kakapo birds left in New Zealand, so other projects that are interesting that will feature, and these are great. And for me, a lot of people like to support animals. Other people support marine biology. So it's finding something that resonates with the individual. So we may have a lot of New Zealanders or Kiwis who are interested in conservation and are quite happy to support some projects back in their homelands. Likewise, in Canada or America, UK, wherever we see a need, then we'll try and find the right partner and find the right project that is giving benefits to the environment and conservation as a whole.
Well, that's great. That's going to be a lot of fun to I'm getting an echo to see and participate in. So I got time for one more question from my end, and then I got to hop out of here. And it's going to be a really basic one. How can viewers help the community? Like, obviously, there's a website and there's social media and that. Where can our viewers go to see how they can participate, donate, volunteer?
No problem. The website is www.conservation.community. That will be launched in the coming week. And what we want people to do really is like and share the Facebook page and get the message out there so we can build the community. And then as we start to funnel the projects onto the platform, of course, what we would like is people to donate to the ongoing causes that we feel that require funding, that are close to people's hearts. So we are asking people to be generous and to donate to save the environment and to help the conservation of the planet. But if people can't donate, just to like and share the page, so that people's time is important to do that.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Appreciate talking to you, Andy and Stefan.
No problem, Jay.
And
Sure.
we'll check in with you soon.
Thank you for coming with us this evening, Jason. We will catch that because we have also a weekly rendezvous with Future Now and ABM SAS. So we will see you back live here with my BBTV. Thank you for coming. I'm going to keep up the good work with Andy, and have a great evening. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, so quite interesting questions from Sandra and Jason, and just to mention that what we would like to create is a great relationship with the audience, right, for that cause about saving the planet and having meaningful actions to deploy on the ground. Your idea of creating a platform was great, because if people can go at a unique place to have a common community experience where they can browse the portfolio of project and being reached out by the whether the struggle, whether the story, where the what is at stake, that will motivate people to behave. I'm again with that word in my mouth, saying behave. It's like doesn't take much money to just spend some time propagating the news, propagating the cause.
One of the things that we see now with the advent of social media, it's great for film crews to go and document projects. That's fine, but it takes a lot of effort for them to do that, and then they've got to come back and the production team all goes to work, and then a show will air, and they focus on particular topics. I think what we're trying to do here with social media is get people into the project live so they can see what's going on a day-to-day basis, because not a lot of people have got the ability to travel from Canada or America into the jungles of Borneo to see some of these projects where they are existing. So if we've got people on the ground, more often than not, we do have an internet connection. We can take people to the heart of the project, and they can see it directly, where the funds that are raised, where they're going to good use and being put to good use to support various different campaigns.
Yeah, this is why we're going to use several technologies, such as the web technology as a platform. There's going to be a community. If people want to participate as volunteers, you can just register. They would be put in a mailing list to be notified when there are the live shows, if they have some new project coming in near their communities, because it's all about what is happening around your neighborhood, right? People would be surprised. Oh, I didn't know that like 100 meters away from where I live, there's an action here. The local newspaper are not talking about that. I need to go on Facebook to be aware of what my neighbors are doing.
Well, that's an old English adage. From a small acorn, a great oak tree grows. And what we have here is the small acorn. What I hope in the future is that we grow this acorn and it becomes essentially the green Facebook, where people can connect on conservation issues, not only fundraising for campaigns, but people are able to share ideas, document repositories, also, advertise events that they're going to put together, even if it's a beach cleanup. I noticed in Phuket last week, the Tourist Authority, they put together a group with the marina area, and they collected nearly 1 ton of rubbish from the beaches in Thailand, in Phuket. You know, so these sort of things are so important, and we can't rely on governments to do everything. We've got people who are willing to step up and take action, and that's what I want to do, is bring everybody together under one platform and make sure that we can share our ideas, fund the projects that are needed to be funded, and also make sure that we can collectively stand up and take action to support conservation.
Yes, and I think it goes behind social media and technology, because when we are talking about that, everybody thinks Facebook, YouTube, all those huge major companies, but it's also really going to the fields, right, with everyday people in every community, wherever you're on the planet. Of course, because the community, the Conservation Community Project is based in Bangkok, Thailand, but of course you're also related to Great Britain for the PAT Foundation. There are going to be a lot of South Asian projects, but it's not limited to that. I think, Sandra Lee Lester. She is mentioning that she likes the idea of donating to projects that are happening in more vulnerable countries. And as you were saying, a government, they need to rule their countries and do what they need to do for the population. And there's also Ministry for the Environment, right? And probably, and we hope, we cross the finger, that they will collaborate with us, but we are not gonna wait till people give some infrastructure. So this is why we are gonna try to deploy a geodata server to put some intelligence information, because there is the open data format that is used by OGC for the cities and all the urbanisms and ecosystem. So we can do that as well. Because it's all about locating a project with latitude, longitude. So you locate it. I like also the fact that you guys on the field are going into the fields of operation, in the jungle or whatever, in the local communities.
We're dodging the snakes.
Yes, well, so please wear boots. Not flip-flops, and actually engaging with local authorities and collaborators. Sometimes there are wonderful people that are lending their land or forest or area of the jungle. So the project, and I'm probably referring to the Hornbills project, managed by Demis and Adam. You know, there are nice people out there that are willing, you know, to help the causes.
Well, that's right. That particular project has been the brainchild of Demis, and Adam has come together to help him and adds a lot of valuable input. But the one important thing you see there is one local businessman has given the land, so it will be protected, and that will stay. The Mahidol University have given support with their researchers, and then Khao Kiao Zoo are offering mating pairs of hornbills that mate for life. So there's a lot of people, there's a lot of entities, government, local businessmen, local organizations working to rally around one particular project. And we see that a lot in different areas. It's not always fighting against the government. What we see is governments don't always have the budget, certainly in third world countries, to put into conservation, although with their hearts they'd like to, but they can donate time. And that's what I see, bringing the revenue in to support these areas and putting everybody on a level playing field, you know, partnering up with organizations.
Because it's also important in terms of brand image for these governments and countries, because if they are taking care of their own environment, collaborating with NGOs such as the PAT Foundation and the community and the conservation community, with all those partners that we have locally in South Asia. You mentioned New Zealand a minute ago, but it is not restricted. So the platform is also open for other project holders to apply and then to be reviewed. Of course, there is a compliance process and a few background checks to be processed. But there's a mission, that you have, I think, summarized with 2 times 3 points. And if I recall well, it was about, let me remind me, where do I have that? I can't recall exactly. I'm trying to find my notes here, but if I try to remind that, it's like you have top 3 features, and what was that? I really need to find by my notes. It's
Not sure.
there.
I think
I
know
found them back. Yeah, it's like one mission was like provide much needed financial assistance to conservation projects, ensure that the projects can be accomplished, removing the worries about where the funding would come from, and educate the public on various projects that are striving so hard to protect the planet.
That's right. And the top 3 features we were looking at were, we want to connect like-minded people on the platform, but provide a fundraising platform that allows the community to get directly involved in the project. So as we mentioned, from remote locations, people can actually see what's going on and support the cause that's dear to their heart. And the main issue, let's not forget, we need to support the project developers.
Exactly.
Without those guys on the ground, they can't do their work. And that's this is one of the disconnects that I see in the NGO sector. Yes, we're charitable, but there's a limit to how much charitable time you've got. And when somebody does this full time, they often need to sustain themselves and their families. They can't always volunteer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's where funding needs to come in to support individuals on the ground that are continuing this work that is so important. And one of the problems you find, it's very difficult to attract leaders of industry into this sector because the salaries are not high. That people can't attain high levels of income necessarily working in conservation. So the people that are doing it are not motivated by money. They just need the basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic level supported, which is security, put food on the table. And people will go out because they're motivated to support that project. But take away that basic security, food, they can't do the work they're doing. So that's why it's important to donate to these projects so the guys can actually still live and go and do the work that is important, rather than go and work for multinational earnings of millions of dollars for shareholders. You know, you can see the disconnect where I'm coming from, Stefan.
Yes, and from the I would say the behind the scene and the web platform, because we are building also a geodata server, we're going to collect information, data, and that would be useful probably for engineering companies, people, biologists, people that want to understand how this or this ecosystem functions, or the micro ecosystems, and all the relationship with it, and have data, and have also data visualization. That would be data sets with marker sets. They can locate and understand, how that works. So if they want, for example, to understand how to do what we call in French aménagement du territoire, so that would be civil engineering. Well, if I can get closer to some traductions. That would be helpful for this company that could easily, what I do, be sponsor, what I would call them sponsors, and we will obviously, also engage conversation with them if they want to sponsor an event, if they want to sponsor a documentary, if they want to sponsor in exchange of data, if they are putting money in a project, we can pay them back with a deliverable, and that deliverable would be the collection of the data we've gathered, right? Because
for sure. Let me just make a comment on that, on fundraising. Unfortunately, the corporate sector is always looking for a return for that marketing dollar invested when they donate to relevant charities, or there's a tax break. So the corporate mindset is, okay, I will give, but what do I get back?
Yeah.
Right. The individual gives without any conditional. It's unconditional. They give because it's a cause that's close to their heart. But that's not to say, whilst we're initially focusing on individuals to donate to get the projects moving, we do need to speak to the corporate sector. And in terms of the GeoServer, if there are options where we can offer data back in an exchange for support for the project, that's fine. That's great. That's what we want to achieve. And the more revenue we can direct to the projects, the more work we can do. It's an important. I'm not ruling out the corporate sector and sponsorship at all. I think it's a really important part. And I think we need to, as you say, with the GeoServers, attract some of the sponsors by giving them something back and that can be intelligence.
Yeah, everyone can come and go for what I call the exposure and the fame. So you look good, you look green, it's good. Mm-hmm. But now, if you are really, involved with the field operations, with a sponsorship of that community or the other one, of that cause, or sometimes giving money, but also some infrastructures or materials, things that need to be, if you can ship some wires and poles because we are building cages to protect the wildlife, that would be supported as well. It's not only money, right? But we live in a modern world where everything goes very, very fast, and people need to have what I call the intel. The local intel, the ecosystem intel, or the market intel, because if that's the modern gold, or the modern oil, it's information. Today, people are valuing a lot of things, but on the top of it, if they have the information, they can handle it, they can manipulate. Is not a great word, because when I was using the word handling, they can make a good use of it. They can't ignore, if they have the data, that if they are building something at one place, that would have an impact on the water. That would have an impact on the wildlife, because actually, if they are building a road, plus school infrastructure, that's good for the humans. But are you impacting the local environment? So if you have that data, and that can be calculated, and you can have the help of biologists, interventionalists, people that are engaged locally. Yeah, that would be helpful for those big structures, big companies. They could take that in consideration when they are doing something locally and they want to sponsor an action. But that's all open.
I don't think, in terms of revenue from sponsorship, that when we're not asking for large amounts, we can stretch the dollar, because of the economies of scale, labor costs in Asia, etc., and volunteers. So it's not like we're a corporation that's trying to generate profit here. 100% of the revenue goes to supporting these campaigns and these projects. So if major companies were able to donate a small fraction or even a percentage of a product to support the conservation community or support particular projects, that would be great. And I think consumers as well are quite happy to pay an extra 10 cents if they know that money is going back to an organization.
It's called social. It's that trend that is popping up everywhere on the planet right now. It's called social selling for social good. So if people
Yes.
use those two hashtags and they type that in whatever search boat that would be, Google or whatever, or Facebook search, they would see that there are tons out there of concept explained, and people can of course have their everyday shopping towards brands that are involved into sponsorship in social selling for social good, because when I refer to social, it's entangled to the social media, right? But of course, it has an impact on social and society. And moreover, if the cause is an ecologic cause or a healthy planet cause, then that your behavior of consuming is not vain in terms of goodwill, or you're not just another consumer feeding the beast that goes for the polluting chain, because at the end of the day, you need to consume or gas, oil, or charcoal. And if you don't have the charcoal minerals, then you have to burn trees illegally
No, that's
sometimes to make that, and that's deforestation. And after the deforestation, if you have your rain season, and then there is nothing on the ground to hold the water, and then you have mud collapsing on population and villages.
Yeah, that's certainly an issue with deforestation.
That's sad, but it's the consequences. It's
Yeah,
everything is related
we've
to another.
we've seen that in Thailand, where a lot of deforestation over the years, and therefore the root structures are not holding the topsoil, and that can then be washed into the rivers. And what happens then is the silt fills up in the bottom of the river, and we then find that when you get heavy downpours, which has happened quite a lot in the last few years in Thailand, the rivers can't handle the volume of water, so we get flooding. And I think every year there's significant flooding in Thailand. It's become second nature. People jumping on boats to get to work because their houses are flooded. One of my former IT managers literally could see, he put sandbanks around, knowing that his house was in a flood zone, and he's in the office and could see that the water had broken over the sandbanks. It was quite distressing, actually. And this goes back to decades before, where the trees have been chopped down.
Yes. So that's pretty much it. I think we've gathered the maximum information we could do for this evening. Yeah. So we're going to wrap up this. So if people want to start volunteering, they're welcome. The first behavior, the first action they can do is to like and share the Facebook pages that we have recently put here. I think, Facebook.com/conservation community. You can also register to our weekly rendezvous on Tuesdays for the western part of the world in Americas. And there is the tiny red point here in Thailand, where you're located, Andy. That gives people an idea of, it's pretty much a global project, right? It's not only about South Asia. We also encourage people to engage the conversation here on Facebook with us. If they have project, they can knock at the door. We will respond, no problem, within the best delays. Of course, in the weeks to come, we're gonna showcase projects one by one and start the donation and fundraising campaign, as you've explained already. That would be done both on the web platform. That's going to be released any day soon. Last tweaks, bells and whistles are bolted all together to have a kind of perfect customer experience or user experience. On the other hand, we will also use the account-based marketing strategy, web service technologies. So every stakeholder, volunteer, donator, sponsors that would like to engage with the conservation community project will have a digital one-to-one relationship in terms of onboarding process, like information nurturing. If people want to be more aware of the video assets that we have, to be more knowledgeable about what is the conservation community project, what is the PATH Foundation, can I have a video portfolio of who are the project manager, what are these projects, I would like to dive in, right? That technology can bring them to their email inboxes. They can engage a direct message conversation on Twitter for those that are not that much with email, but more always on Twitter, texting. Of course, there would be also some triggers for Facebook, more comments and notifications. And we're going to be using all what's available in terms of automation to facilitate that relationship between any type of audience, any type of project holder categories, and then they can onboard and engage, easily.
Perfect.
For the cause, it's like pretty much simple. And of course, after it's sometimes one-to-one session with you, the people from the team at the Conservation Community Project. There would be some online reunions. Probably at some point, people would like to have some webinars, like they are willing to do something, but they need to have one speaker and then a question and answer session at the end of that presentation.
I think there's quite a lot of people that would be willing to do that. And as you said, we want to wrap up now, so let's lead into next week, and let's get the guys from Chiang Mai here, and let's get them talking about the Hornbill project, because the knowledge and information they have is amazing, and it's just snippets of information that you grab that are really important, and then we don't get them unless we speak directly to these people. So let's try to focus on that and get the Hornbill project funded.
Right. Okay, we'll do that. Andy,
all right.
Thank you for being with us this evening.
Okay.
And we'll talk soon again, because this is launch every midweek. We have to be on the air.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.